This is the primal scream of a dying regime.
Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Thursday, 6 August in the year of our Lord 2026. We start today's show in Texas, and I'm here to announce that Brian Harrison will join us back on Monday morning. He's got a whole plan of action, a call to action for the War and Posse. So Monday morning, Brian will be back with this action plan of what's needed down the Texas House, particularly regarding accountability and people like Tallarico. We had Byron Donalds on running in the Republican primary. You know, Byron's been on the show many times over the years as a congressman. Now I want to introduce Paul. By the way, Solomon's going to be on. Huge breaking story in Arizona, Maricopa County. John Solomon's up at the Senate now. He's going to come back. He's going to be in studio. We'll have John here probably at the bottom of the hour. And, of course, the stories yesterday blew up, so we're going to get updates on all of that. Tom Fitton's weighing in now at the FBI, all of it. So we're going to get to all of that here momentarily. Want to introduce Paul Renner. Paul, former surface warfare officer, running also against Byron and Fishback and I guess Collins in the primary. Paul, you're, I think, best known. Talk to us about the time. We used to have Dr. Latipo on all the time, a superstar. And Governor DeSantis, I mean, the becoming of the free state of Florida started with the response during Fauci's pandemic. You were Speaker of the House. Walk me through what you did in that time, how you and Latipo worked together, what did you do with the Governor DeSantis, and how did you guys make this the free state of Florida, sir?
Yeah, and in this race, I'm the only one that was present during that time, and we stopped the lockdown regime, beginning with COVID and obviously during the Biden administration, and stood up against the coercion to protect people from losing their jobs by not wanting to take an experimental shot, from crazy things like vaccine passports. I mean, we were talking about a brave new world, and it halted here in the free state of Florida. And I was there every step of the way with the governor, with Surgeon General Latipo, to make sure we kept Florida free, leaned into health freedom. I've been endorsed by the Stand for Health Freedom organization. I'm the only health freedom candidate in this race. We don't want health freedom to be something that was a COVID era issue. It needs to be front and center for Republicans going forward, and it will be when I'm governor.
Mr. Speaker, people, understand it kind of, particularly people in Florida, the great fight that you guys had, but it started to attract people. The free state of Florida started to attract people from all over the United States to come there, particularly from the Northeast. And so many Floridians I know, when they talk about what they're looking for in leadership, what they're looking for in governor, they love the old original Florida, right? There's a bond to folks in the state of Florida like there is folks in Texas, right, to Texas. Walk us through, how do you balance that of growth, particularly what's happening in South Florida? You've got half of Wall Street, looks like it's moving to Florida from New York City. The other half's moving to Dallas. And I keep telling folks, having worked at Goldman Sachs, when the financial community starts coming there, things just change. How do you balance economic growth, what you want to accomplish, with those people who are saying, hey, we don't want to lose what made Florida so attractive in the first place?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're a victim of our success, and I've joked if I could build a wall at the Alabama-Georgia line and make New York pay for it, I would, because we really have such an influx of people that are driving up the cost of housing, insurance, taxes, all these things that are going through the roof. And it is the number one issue for me and my contract with Florida is to eliminate property taxes, lower insurance rates, get after these solar farms that are driving up our electric rates, and make sure we're establishing a proper energy policy in our state to lower electric rates. and stopping hyperscale data centers that are going to damage our environment and drive up electric rates as well. These affordability issues are front and center because of the influx. Now, we still want to have prosperity. That means no income tax. That means reducing those property taxes. That means leaning into education and these types of things, but balancing the growth by giving more local control. When I was speaker, we also invested in the wildlife corridor and land conservation to make sure that we preserve a little bit of wild Florida. My grandfather was a dairyman in Pinellas County. There's no dairies in Pinellas County anymore, but I'm third generation. My dad grew up in FFA and 4-H, and of course I went to the Navy like you, and that was my path. But we have a great state, and part of my Florida First agenda is to leave it better than we found it, to make sure that we conserve that part of old Florida so that we can enjoy it. I want my kids to fall in love with the state that I fell in love with many, many years ago.
Let's talk about power. Dave Walsh, we had as our power energy expert for years. He's now at the Department of War in the Trump administration. But Dave used to come here all the time to talk about the Florida Power Commission and how they had gone kind of woke and gone so much to solar. How do you kind of unwind all that? This whole thing about going to solar, where the rates are going, and couple that with this just maniacal drive by the tech oligarchs to build these massive data centers. I mean, we've had many citizens from Florida come on over the last year talking about fighting their planning commission and fighting this for these data centers they just want, particularly in rural areas where they got this kind of beautiful, lovely agricultural territory and land, and it's been there forever, and this is why they fell in love with it, but now they're going to have a massive data center. How do you work all that to make sure you've got the energy and power to do it, but you got to get off this woke solar panel focus and at the same time make sure that the data centers are not sucking out everything else on the grid?
Well, I'm a hard no on the data centers as they've been presented because they will drive up our grid. And I love Dave Walsh. It will damage our electrical grid. It will drive up costs. A multitude of different subsidies that the ratepayers will be paying for those data centers. It will damage our aquifer in its current form because they're big water hogs. There's a way to do it. Someone suggested, and as a Navy guy, you'd get it like a naval nuclear carrier. Put them out in the ocean. Plenty of water, plenty of power. Elon Musk has put them in space. But with respect to the electric grid that you mentioned, yes, Georgia is lengthening the life of coal, natural gas, nuclear plants, and they have a 3-year rate freeze. Here in Florida, we have the largest increase in U.S. history by FPNL because their shareholders want to go all in on the green new scam. That's why you see these solar, they call them farms. They're not farms, they're solar fields, rows and rows of these solar panels, scarring the landscape, buying up our farmland, driving up prices, damaging the environment. And more importantly, it doesn't deliver the most efficient electricity to the doorstep. I want the cheapest electric, number one, not dependent on China, and reliable. Solar fails all 3 criteria. And so we're going to have a strong energy policy. This is a big fight with special interest. I fought them before. I fought big tech to protect our kids online. They don't want me as governor. They don't want me because I'm opposing data centers, and the utilities don't want me because I want them to do well only when we do well, not when they just spend more money on wasteful solar green new scam deals.
Walk us through this. You were Speaker of the House of Florida, which is a very tough job. You got to wheel and deal. You got to bring a lot of disparate interests together to move things forward. You're not some professor. You're not some political science professor at some college. You're a guy that's actually been in the fight for a while. How is it? And I would argue you probably got the hardest of all the competitors. You've got the hardest no on the data centers, tech bros. How does that work? How does a guy that actually comes out of the practical side of you have to make deals, you have to accommodate different interests, I'm trying to juggle everything. What led you to be the hardest no on data centers?
Research. I mean, look, I left in 24. I'd never heard of a hyperscale data center. And so I started looking at it and thought, this is terrible for Florida. The other points to be made is we're a fast growing state. So our aquifer's already under stress. Our grid, electric grid's already under stress. Let them go to some state with declining population, some failing blue state that has plenty of electrical capacity and plenty of water. We're not that state. We're already under, a lot of scarcity and demand because of that fast growth. And so that led me to the decision. And with respect to being speaker, the reason we were so successful as a military guy, you understand, we focus on the mission. It's not about us. It's about the people we serve, putting Florida first. The governor described those 2 years as the biggest, most consequential 2 years when I led in Florida history. It's when we built the free state of Florida. And fundamentally, this election is about whether you want to take a risk on somebody with no experience, with no results, with no vision, or somebody who helped build the free state of Florida to continue the free state of Florida and strengthen it. And I think the answer is obvious. That's why we're hoping that your listeners will vote for us, for Paul Renner, on August 18th.
Paul, walk us through how is this going to play out? Your vision, how this is going to play out over the next couple of weeks. Walk us through that. Your vision for Florida. Let's put it in a nutshell. Why is it different from your other opponents? And most importantly, you've got a turncoat in Jolly, who I remember because we do cold opens, as you know, as a fan of the show, from MSNBC, and he was a major contributor at MSNBC going against the president and Governor DeSantis every single day. And also he was the biggest cheerleader for Fauci. Walk us through your vision and how this plays out in both his primary and then in the general against Jolly.
Yeah, well, David Jolly's Charlie Crist 2.0. You can't trust somebody somebody can change one of their positions during their life. That happens. But to change every single position on core, fundamental, philosophical belief issues shows you he's a person that just wants to get elected and will say anything you want him to say to win. And so I think that's an easy win for me in the general election. And when it comes to how we win, we have a contract with Florida, a written document, much like, the contract with America back in 94. It's comprehensive. It goes through affordability. It goes through safety, shorter death penalty appeals. We're not going to let people be on death row for 30 plus years. We'll give them 3 years. Ending human trafficking, public corruption, health freedom I mentioned, the environment I mentioned. We're going to lean into election integrity. I want Florida to be the gold standard. We can't have anything goes, absentee balloting. You lose chain of custody as a former prosecutor. I don't know how many people have touched those ballots. We're going to have world-class election integrity. The same is true for the Second Amendment. We're going to lean into that. And these types of things, it's a comprehensive document on voterenner.com in the first 100 days. Look, everybody tells you they're going to do all these things. Politicians use a lot of words. I've got the receipts to prove that when I say I'm going to do something, you better take it to the bank. We're going to get it done just like I did when I was speaker. We will do these things in the first 100 days. And if they don't get it done in the legislative session, we'll be back all summer long with special sessions until they do the people's business and put Florida first.
There's no doubt in your mind you'll beat Jolly?
There's no doubt in my mind for two reasons, Steve. One is the qualifications, head and shoulders. I've got more qualifications than any candidate in this race. And number two, there's nothing negative in my background that's going to blow me out of the water. And I've also got things I can point to, like educational freedom that's popular on a bipartisan basis. I mentioned the environment, taking care of the Everglades, the wildlife corridor, making sure you can catch a fish and safely eat that fish here in Florida has bipartisan appeal. And other things that we did that really will allow us to win over independents and maybe soft Democrats, because people want somebody who's going to get things done. And David Jolly will reject calls for property tax reform because he's captive to the League of Cities and the Democrat Party. That's where they make their money, in those big cities. He will refuse to support property tax reform. I'm the only candidate who has a plan to eliminate homestead property taxes, and that's going to be a winning issue, along with insurance rates. And again, I've done it when I was speaker, major litigation reform to help save the insurance market, and I'll do it as governor. Those things will shine during a general election.
Where do people go to get more information about your campaign and to see if they want to donate or actively help you out as a grassroots member?
Thanks for asking. VoteRenner.com. You can chip in a little bit. As I said, big tech, the utilities, trial lord, none of those folks are supporting me. The big special interest wants somebody who will be their puppet. I never have been. I never will be. I'm putting Florida first, and that threatens them. So VoteRenner.com that you see up on your screen, that's the beginning of the copy of my contract with Florida that you can read, and a lot of other news and positions we haven't talked about today that are strong, conservative, principled, unwavering positions. And I think that's the point I'd leave you with, is that I ran to the fight when others waited for the fight to come to them in school board races, amendments 3 and 4. We had these out-of-state special interests trying to turn us into something we weren't. I joined the governor. None of the other candidates showed up except for a tweet on X. That doesn't win the battle. You know that, Steve. You got to show up in the trenches and fight, fight, fight. We did that. We will do that as governor, and I appreciate anybody coming on board and helping us in these last 2 weeks on to victory.
Sir, thank you very much. You make the Navy proud. and Oliver Hazard Perry, Surface Warfare Officer. Thank you, sir. Hope
God bless
back
you.
on.
Thanks
Paul
for your
Renner.
service.
Thank you, sir. Short commercial break. Back in the war room in a moment.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
I want to thank our sponsors, particularly like last night. I think we only had 2 minutes of show. Had Ben Berquam up talking, and the president came in, and the speech, I think, went almost an hour and a half or whatever. So, but we covered the entire hours. We try to cover most of the activity. I want to thank Congressman Byron Donalds. I want to thank Paul Renner. And we got Fish back on tomorrow. That's already locked in. We're trying to get the lieutenant governor. We want to make sure all four of the major, maybe even do it again next week. It's obviously huge. Florida, the free state of Florida and Texas, get this mess up in Ohio. I mean, those are the MAGA states. Remember in the old days, Florida and Ohio, oh my gosh, are they swing states they're going to go where they're not swing states now? That's because of policies and people that have made them such. Texas, they're trying to turn blue, or at least purple. The Tallarico thing is a situation. Why? And they go, well, you got the candidate you want. No, you spent $250 million. La Savita in that crowd spent $250 million of Cornyn. And you saw what a scumbag Cornyn is, trying to hold up everything the president's doing. To destroy the grassroots in Texas and dispirit them for his own benefit. And now we are where we are. And yes, Paxton's going to win. It's going to take an effort of the grassroots, and the grassroots have got to get motivated. But how are people supposed to get motivated when you see what's happening in the Texas legislature? That these great grassroots folks down in Texas that are the best and turn out to vote and are there for not just rallies, but for the hard work of canvassing and workshops and going door to door and voter engagement and bringing out not just the base vote, but the lower propensity votes. Mamdani and these guys understand how to do this. It's not about money anymore. This is why up in Michigan, it's going to be an issue. This APEC money is going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue. And all these people run around taking all this money. If you think that that's going to put you to advantage, Stevens, I think, spent in her case in Michigan, spent $68 million against Abdul. I think he spent 7 or 8. Mamdani was crushed by spending by Cuomo. Money doesn't matter like it used to because the TV ads where the consultants because they get such a high carried interest on it, they want everything to go into television. This is why there was no grassroots. It's very tough for them to make money supporting the grassroots. This is why in Virginia, in the Commonwealth of Virginia, that great team there under the new leadership of the Republican Party and people like DeLois Stallman and many DeLois Stallmans out there. Remember, they couldn't get a penny. If Sean Spicer gave them a plan, gave the RNC, gave everybody a plan. Hey, $5 million, we can deliver a win. Was not coming. Just like down in Texas. That's all. That grassroots is always hand to mouth. But it's a political force. Why did they fear Trump? Yes, it was Trump and his personality and his understanding of the system and the fact that he was an apostate. He'd been inside the system. He knew the deals. He knew the scams. He knew the relationships. Maybe he didn't quite understand, and I think he's the first to admit, the deep state aspect of it, where we actually have a permanent government. Well, how permanent a government is it, Steve? Well, here's how permanent a government is. The FBI decided, against all evidence to the contrary, to pursue a case to prosecute a sitting commander-in-chief. A sitting commander-in-chief. And I might add that in May of 2017, when they did that, if memory serves me correctly, and it does, this was where President Trump gave the authorization to Mattis to take care of the caliphate of ISIS. You got to remember, go back in time. Obama and these guys, the caliphate's going to be here forever. It was a big hunk of Iraq in a big hunk of Syria. They're recruiting 10,000 people a month, principally from Europe, some from the United States. They had oil revenue tax. Heck, they create their own nations, the ISIS physical caliphate. Trump's taken that down with Mattis. We had Laura Logan, and we're going to try to get her hopefully tomorrow, especially today, but our scheduling, we were so jammed, the scheduling, she's doing another show. She told you she was covering for CBS. She went up to Mosul. They turned Mosul and the other cities up there to look like Dresden. Trump's actually overseeing a war as commander-in-chief. You got the FBI, McCabe and these guys, prosecuting a sitting commander-in-chief as a Russian asset. Now you know why McCabe whined so much when Trump won. Remember he came on TV? We would mock him every day because he went on, I think, Aaron Burnett or something on CNN. And it's like, we're having very serious discussions. Many of us are having very serious discussions about leaving the country. You damn right. They knew what they did. And of course, even with people should say we should have some urgency on this. Maybe we should move quickly on this. Maybe this is what's right for the country. And as a side note, as a side benefit, this is what our people went door to door for. They went door to door to shatter the deep state, because you can't be a nationalist if you believe in a deep state, because the deep state, by definition, is globalist in its nature. So maybe we should shatter that. Oh, while we're at it, why don't we deport the 22 million that came in on Biden's watch? Not simply the bad hombres. Obviously, they have to go. But I mean all of them. And while we're on top of it, to give the young people in this country a shot, maybe we take a 10-year moratorium on all these phony legal immigration scams. And while we're in it, we stop OPT. We drive these foreign students. Hey, look, if the universities are dependent upon foreign students, that's their problem, not the citizens of this country's problem. And maybe if they're going to come and be educated, and you stamp an exit visa on the diploma and say, hey, we're so proud that we're able to educate you and send you back to your home country to make your home country great again for all the generations of your people that have been there, and make it something, in the future. Yeah, we're probably prepared to do that. Otherwise, stamp on that and leave. And stop the H-1B programs that Elon Musk and all the tech bros push all the time to take jobs away from American citizens, these young kids under 40. You know why they can't afford a home? You know why there's family formations late? Because the gals are sitting there kind of weighing and measuring. Hey, can this guy actually do it? Can he actually get not just a job? Can he have a career? Can he make a little money? That maybe I have the option of not working? Don't we want to get back? This is the whole thing of the family as a unit. Don't we want to get back to the situation? And Margaret Hoover and others said, well, that's so nostalgic. It's not nostalgic. What is it? Is there some immutable law of the universe that says two people have to work? Is that a law of the universe? It's not a law of the universe. All that crap Paul Ryan and all these bozos are pushing out, these are not immutable physical properties of our universe. This is all made by human consciousness making decisions. We can reverse those decisions. And in reversing those decisions, let's just do the following. Let's have a simple template. What's in the best interest of this republic and its citizens? When that comes first on every decision, from going to war to tax policy to immigration policy to job policy, all of it. When you put the American family first, and you put this nation first, and you put the citizens first, I'm all good, and I may not like some of the policies. Maybe some of them are a little liberal. Maybe some are progressive. I'm good with that. As long as the country comes first, and the American families come first, and the citizens are paramount. Now you got citizens, and the sons and daughters have been here 7, 8, 9, 10. Don't ask me. Go back and look at yourself. Go back to your family's tree, all the way back. Black, Hispanic, white, Asian, go all the way back to when they first came. The sweat off their brow to get you into this position of where you are today. And how tenuous is that position? I'm going to tell you. And I don't care if you're in the upper middle class, it's pretty tenuous. You're holding on, and this angst is like acid, eating upon the social fabric and the soul of this nation. Why? We have betrayed the revolutionary generation and every generation that fought to give us a chance and make us the freest, most powerful, wealthiest nation on earth. Why? We have let foreign elements into this country and the power, they control all the institutions. Look at Natalie Winters yesterday. All the big shots on TV running down Trump in uniform. All working and taking handouts from the Chinese Communist Party, the existential military threat to this nation. And you have to wonder, and them taking money, why is CENTCOM, I say, in the city, in Washington, D.C., there are three massive institutions that gravitational force kind of moves around a political power. The Federal Reserve, the Central Intelligence Agency, and CENTCOM. Why have we not done the pivot to Asia? Everything that we value now in the economy is centered on those chips, advanced chip design coming out of the factories of Taiwan, and the first island chain, the strategic pivot of the Central Pacific. Yes, the same Central Pacific that they died at Tarawa and Peleliu and Saipan, the Marines, the Navy, the Army, all that blood and all that treasure. We're giving that away, and we're stuck 20 years, 25 years into it in the Middle East. 9/11's 30 days or so away. Right after that, on the evening of the 3rd of November, Election Day, I think it's the 3rd November, Mamdani in New York, Abdul in Michigan, and Tallarico in Texas. Suck on that. How is that for memory of those who died in 9/11? You don't have to go back to the beginning, to the Patriots' grave. Look, 25 years ago, and see where we are today.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
A still point in a turning world. That's what physical gold is. Find out all about it. Text Bannon, B-A-N-N-O-N, 989898. Get to Philip Patrick and the team. Find out why gold has been a hedge. A hedge against what, Steve? I don't know. Maybe 1 billion shares of SpaceX coming on the market next week. And, this Hormuz deal, like, who knows? We'll have to read that in detail to see it all. Still point in a turning world. Check it out. Do it today. Birch Gold, Bannon at 989898. Talk to Philip Patrick team. They got all types of free information, no obligation. Since we started the day with Texas, and we're going to end with Arizona, we had Florida in between. For all those Texas Patriots, 972 Patriot. Call right now. You'll talk to somebody with the East Texas accent. If you want to have a prayer session, have a prayer session. If you want to talk about the best phone service in America and the world, talk to them about that and make the switch today. Glenn's story, Jenny's story, grassroots leaders, great patriots put, I think it's almost $3 million last year of profits from the company back into causes you support. 972 Patriot. Talk to somebody today with the East Texas accent. If you want to pray, go and pray. John Solomon, you're a sight for sore eyes. They were not up yet. Oh my gosh, we're trying to get his microphone to work. People don't want another rant. Okay, Denver. Here's the deal. If we don't get his microphone to work, I'm going to have another rant. Okay, you guys, you didn't get enough so far. Just a small item to duly note. We're talking about these data centers. Of course, we've called for a moratorium. I support Governor Abbott. Abbott's not known as, any environmentalist, but he, Governor Abbott loves the state of Texas. We have a lot of differences about what we think policy should be, but even Governor Abbott has called for a moratorium until they can review in detail what's going on with the grid. And the Texas grid has been a subject of controversy for a long time. Up in Michigan, I can tell you, folks on the ground there are telling me, and this is on the Republican side, one of the number one issues, maybe number 2 or 3, but near the top, maybe even the top, is the situation with data centers. And you can see in Florida, it's a huge issue. And Florida's not some socialist blue state. It's the free state of Florida. And of course, economic interests have always taken kind of a priority in Florida. That's why a lot of folks down in Florida are saying, hey, this Florida that we cherish, this Florida that we love, we don't want to lose it to just blindly following, economic growth, that we don't think through. And so there you've had Renner and even Byron Donaldson. Byron, I think, is taking money. I think Byron's much closer to the big tech, but Byron on his interview said, hey, look, I support 9 or 10 of these things. I support it. And Florida's been at the forefront. Why has Florida been at the forefront? Governor DeSantis took a stand to make sure that, hey, when the tech bros were trying to get the White House to have this executive order that had no guardrails and let them do what thou wilt, it was on preemption. Governor DeSantis courageously stepped into the breach, said, we're not going to do that. Florida, hey, you're going to have some guardrails. Now, the tech bros saying, hey, you can't have 50 states making 50 things. Hey, we kind of agree with that. But as long as you're just going to be sitting there as pure accelerationists with all gas, no brakes, that's not going to work. And you're not going to pound your way through here. John Solomon, massive news. We're going to end with Arizona today on massive news coming out of Maricopa County. You broke it. Can you walk us through what the story is? And, of course, everybody's jumping on this story that there's other investigations. There hasn't been investigations. People haven't been charged. They have been charged. There's so many rumors going around. Even the great Paul Sperry. There's everybody jumping on this thing. What in the hell's going on, sir? What have you started this morning, John Solomon?
Well, I think the most important thing is that the President of the United States declassified more documents. He did it through his White House counsel, through the great work of the White House Chief of Staff. We brought some documents. They made them public. What do they show? They show that great giant sugar pill that we were force-fed at the end of the November 2020 election, that we had just endured the most secure election in U.S. history. That's what Chris Krebs, the CISA director, told us, was absolutely not true. Over the last 4 years, first we learned that Iran hacked the election, took 100,000 voter files. Then last month in the president's speech, because of the declassifications he did, we learned that China, during that election, sold 220 million American voter files. And then today, we learned that in Maricopa County, where we were told, don't look here, nothing to see in Maricopa County, on the eve of the election, the United States intelligence community, which had a fusion center watching for any intrusions around the United States, detected a major breach in Maricopa County, the largest county in Arizona. It indicated that 600,000 plus voter files were stolen by a hacker. There were some concerns that those hacks may have gone through foreign locations. The FBI jumped on the case. The FBI proved exactly what the intelligence community believed happened. They located a man in Pinal County, Arizona, who admitted, yep, I went in, wrote a script, stole 633,000 voter files. About 1,000 of those voter files had very sensitive information, like they indicated if someone was a cop or if they were a domestic abuse victim or other things that were attached to their voter file. The FBI got the man to confess. They proved the case to a degree. Now, this is late 2020. They spend the next 3 years trying to get a prosecutor to prosecute this case. But the Biden Justice Department, which had no problem prosecuting people for trespassing in the Capitol, just trespassing.
Okay. Okay, but hang on. Full stop.
Yeah.
Full stop. I got.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second. Biden,
Yeah.
brother, hit rewind. You're talking about Arizona, where Fox called it early. You're talking. Go back into the tumultuous days, those first days of the stolen election. Why was it not released? This is President Trump's administration. His FBI director, Chris Wray.
Yeah.
If we had released that 660,000 voter files had been electronically tampered with, we were told it was. Krebs on CBS on 60 Minutes says it's the most secure. How could this possibly happen? How could Chad Wolf at DHS? How could Chris Wray? Bill Barr sat there pontificating, blown up like a what? They didn't know. There was
I don't think a lot. Here's what I think happened
right away.
Well,
And
yeah,
by the way,
FBI
this
at the
event alone, I'm gonna get to not prosecuting, but the acknowledgement of that event alone to the commander in chief would have changed the entire direction of the conversation in the fight in November and December of 2020. Yes,
certainly
we would
would
have
have told
definitely
us that
won. We'd have forced it into the House. We'd have forced it into the House of Representatives for a contingent election, which the Constitution and the Electoral Count of 1887 requires. John, this is blockbuster news. How was this suppressed at the time?
I want to remind everybody the document we made public a few weeks ago, where the FBI at a sub-director's level talked about and bragged about that they were running a shadow government to keep things from the American people, to keep things from the president, to keep things from the president's cabinet, and to keep things from Congress. There's some pretty strong evidence that this was kept at an operational level low. But what you do see is that Chris Krebs, the guy who was running CISA, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency in charge of protecting the election vulnerabilities, he clearly is in the know. And he's even giving briefings during election day and the day after. And you see him not put this into his briefings. The logs show he gives a briefing, but he doesn't mention Maricopa. Now, Maricopa, this breach in Maricopa County, which, by the way, is not ballots, it is voter registration data. The registration data wasn't changed, but it was stolen. It was literally lifted off the servers in the middle of the election. It caused Maricopa County servers to go down for a few hours to create a patch to the vulnerability. It's never briefed to us. They don't talk about it. They just ignore it. Whatever doesn't fit the narrative, they ignore. Just like whatever didn't fit the Russia collusion narrative, they just hid. What didn't create the China narrative, they just hid. So people at the low levels of the FBI know it. They solve the case, and then the Biden Justice Department comes along. The same Biden Justice Department that used federal resources for trespassing, misdemeanor trespassing cases, doesn't want to prosecute it. Then they go to the Attorney General of Arizona. They don't want to prosecute it. They go to Maricopa County and Pinal County, the two district attorneys. They don't want to prosecute him. A admission. This guy admitted. He confessed that he stole voter data off a site. He wrote a script. He showed how easy it was. But that narrative, if you prosecuted that man, that narrative would not have fit the perfect election or the most secure election narrative. So they just buried the case. This is the thing they've been doing. They buried the Chinese hacks. They buried the Iran. They didn't tell us about the Iran hack for a whole year. We learned on Thanksgiving Eve of 2021, when they dumped a case in New York, when we were getting our turkeys ready in 2021, that Iran had hacked the election. There was a concerted effort by the deep state, the administrative state, to hide all of the vulnerabilities and insecurities that existed in 2022. And by the way, because they hid it in 2022, we went through 2022 and 2024 with the same vulnerabilities. We had a glass chin for 6 years because bureaucrats decided they knew better than our elected leaders, and they hid it from us.
This is so mind-boggling. What about, because yesterday your revelations and what was declassified blew everybody's head up on the prosecution of President Trump as a Russian asset. But this, with everything there, Biden not doing it, we've still been in charge for a year and a half. Why has it not been prosecuted today? And please tell me that over the main justice right now, this is like numero uno priority?
We hope so, right? Now, all these things happened 6 years ago. The statute's 5. So the sand clock has run on all these things. Unless somebody goes back and looks at it as a conspiracy, which I don't think they'll be able to do in this particular case. There aren't a foreign conspirator. There aren't other people. It's one Yahoo that could get, maybe we keep being told our system is totally secure. It's a conspiracy theory to be worried that the machines or the voter databases are secure. This guy got into Maricopa County and pulled them out one by one by one. It was not secure. China was able to get 220 million files off of the various locations where they exist. In both Maricopa and China, there are non-public sensitive information that was stolen. We were told the voting machines can't be flipped. We now know the intelligence committee knew they could. Now, doesn't mean it happened, but to not close these vulnerabilities down for 6 years after you knew about them is really one of the big travesties of what we're exposing. The Trump DOJ, the Trump FBI, the Trump Homeland Security Department, the Trump NSA, the Trump CIA are all now in the process of getting us wise. The first step is disclosure. The second step is fixes. And the third step's got to be accountability. And the big accountability is going to come from two locations. There is an election crimes task force being run by a U.S. attorney, former Congressman Dan Bishop. He's working that, I think, in North Carolina, if I remember correctly. And then Joe DeGeneva has a big weaponization task force in Florida. He's working that. And then there are some ancillary cases. There's a case out in Utah I'm keeping a close eye on. There's a case out in New York I'm looking at that also can create some accountability. But we've talked a lot about China and Iran, but you know what? The single greatest intrusion on our election the last 6 years is what the FBI, the CIA did to our country. They didn't put a thumb on our scale. They put a whole body on the scale of the election. They tried to pretend Donald Trump was a Russian asset when they knew it wasn't. They used Hillary Clinton's opposition research to do it. They misled FISA courts. They misled the American people. They expended tens of millions of dollars. They told us not to believe the Hunter Biden laptop when they knew it was real. They told us there was no evidence that Joe Biden and Hunter Biden had corrupt relationships when their files were chock full of it. The greatest intrusion in our election wasn't a foreigner. Our vulnerabilities to foreigners are high. The greatest intrusions to our elections were our own intelligence and law enforcement agencies from 2016 to early 2025. They intervened in our election more than any foreign power. And thus far, none of them have paid a dear price.
John, can you hang on 1 second? I know you're
Sure.
busy. You just came up from the Senate. I just want a few more minutes of your time. We're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to turn it with John Solomon.
We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
John Solomon's with us. So, John, yesterday caused a firestorm because we know that the FBI went after the commander-in-chief as he's overseeing a war to
Pretty
take down the
amazing, isn't
caliphate
it?
of ISIS. Today, you've got another blockbuster. I noticed in your report that I read in detail that there were no whistleblowers that ever came forward. Here's my question, or my point. We don't have a bad apples problem. We have a systemic problem. When do you think, and you're doing, the task force doing a great job, and people are assisting you had Pulte there for a while, but we have an issue that has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed now for the sovereignty of this country and the basically ability of the American citizens, which should be paramount, to make decisions that are executed by the government after they've come to a conclusion of who they want to see in office. When do you believe we're actually going to, first off, go after the bad apples, which must be done and must be prosecuted, but then get to the harder work? Like right now, there had to be hundreds, if not thousands, of people inside DHS that knew about Maricopa County or something going on when it was our nose was rubbed in the fact of when it mattered. That was the safest election in mankind's history. And that was a bald-faced lie, and people in authority knew it was a bald-faced lie, and it would have changed the direction of American, therefore human history. We wouldn't have 22 million illegal alien invaders in the country right now, okay? So when is that going to start? When is that work of accountability, both individual and institutional, going to commence, sir?
Yeah, listen, I think there's been a process. Process one was to fire a lot of people and force a lot of people out. The Justice Department and FBI saw a mass exodus. DNI has been cut more than half. Bill Pulte making sure that recently, but even before that, there were big cuts. There are some agencies still undergoing that transformation. Then there's the disclosure part. Here are the crimes you didn't know about because they were in burn bags or they were hiding in skiffs, which the president made possible with this task force, and that I'm so grateful for. And then the final part is you take all of that, and you get going, and then you create prosecutions for those who committed crimes under the color of law. And I think that's the process that's there. This morning, Senator Tom Cotton announced he'll get that John Brennan transcript over to the Justice Department. That's a good piece of news. You've got the prosecutor.
Hold it. Whoa.
Yep.
Don't bury the lead. Don't bury the lead because you were profiling Courage yesterday. Don't bury the lead.
Yeah.
Senator Cotton has agreed to what? Senator Cotton agreed to what?
He said he's going to get a resolution. You have to vote it out. This is what I was saying. I said it has to be voted out of the Senate. They had the request in January. They're going to vote it out now. That's a good thing. They'll get that out to the Justice Department. That gets that logjam cleared. Good on Senator Cotton. Good on Senator Thune. Good on the Justice Department. Anyone who intervened yesterday, they got it done. That's the sort of things that gets progress going. The FBI has created an extraordinary body of evidence for prosecutors. The prosecutors now have got to go before the grand jury. They are, I will tell you this, my understanding is that they're securing cooperation from some very important witnesses, people that we never would have thought would have flipped. They got to now put the case together and get some indictments done soon before more statutes expire. And I think that's the process that's underway. And meanwhile, the part that I can contribute, because the president is giving me this extraordinary opportunity, is just keep getting documents out. And we are getting incredible cooperation from FBI, CIA, NSA, ODNI. And if you asked me a year ago if I'd ever say that, I would have laughed at you. The cooperation has been unprecedented. We've got millions of pages of documents, and we're going to get the tens of thousands that matter out. Some of them don't matter. But the stuff that does matter, we're getting it out. And you've seen this week alone 3 big revelations. Next week, probably see 3 more.
John Solomon, last question. I know you got to bounce. Thanks for taking the time. 2 questions real quickly. 1, do you have a food taster? And 2, are you suicidal, sir?
I am happily married. I'm happily employed. I'm happily a proud American, and I'm happy that the president afforded this incredible opportunity to get this done. And I'm damn happy that every day at 6 o'clock, I get a handoff from you, and I get to do a show on this great network following the great Steve Bannon. So I'm totally happy.
Okay, I'm gonna call Rob Sig right after this. We're gonna front the Rav will put up the money for the food taster. For the food taster, you're
awesome, buddy.
John, where do people go? Where they go for all your content? I know. I'll just say, I think Solomon has a couple, 3 other bombshells he's going to drop here over the coming days and weeks. So where do people go to keep up with it all, John?
Yeah, justthenews.com. Jay Solomon reports on social media. Just the News, no noise, right after you at 6 o'clock. And I want to thank all the, there's a group of intelligence officers that work every day to help me get this work done. All of them are working 18, 20-hour days. They are such patriots. They believe in their country. They want to fix these agencies that abuse their authority and their trust. And I know sometimes I get the credit for it, but at the end of the day, it's the guys down in the trenches. It's the president that had the courage to do this. It's the White House counsel, Dave Warrington and Susie Wiles, who made this apparatus possible. And they're the real heroes in this. I just get to point out documents that might be fun to release, which is kind of fun for me.
Amen. Thank you. And thank you for the shout out and the name check of all the folks that are making this happen. Appreciate you, sir.
Yeah.
See you back here at 6.
Back at you, brother. Take care.
Solomon's working 18 hours a day doing this on leading the task force. Plus, and he's got a great task force. Plus, he's doing keeping the show going. So good on you. The Charlie Kirk Show, Andrew Colvette, Poso, Steve. We got Eric. We're going to be back at 5. Here's what we're going to do at 5. I think we're going to do it at 5 right now. I'm going to do a deep dive since I've said, hey, November 3rd, you have Mamdani, Abdul, and Tallarico. There's something, as Naomi Wolf has pointed out, is not quite right in New York City. And this is the way the Bolsheviks roll. So I'm going to get an expert this afternoon. I think we're going to try to carve out some serious time to go through what exactly happened in New York City and is Mamdani all that he purports to be, particularly on the electoral front. So stick around. 5 o'clock. If we can fit this in, or if I can restructure the show, we're going to do it. We're going to be back here at 5 to do that. I want to thank Birch Gold. Remember, birchgold.com/Bannon, end of the dollar empire. 8 free installments. 9th is coming. I'm doing the graphics right now, approving the graphics, approving the work of others. Right? It's fantastic. We're going to get that out there the 9th. But go get the 8th or put your name on a list to get the hardbound, which I think is 7. So go check it out. Also, Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock has a free offer. The 2 weeks triple lock. You get the $1 million triple lock protection for 2 weeks to assess it. Today, I didn't get the chance to do this. I'll try to do this tonight. The Artificial Intelligence Frontier Lab said, hey, we're close to the singularity. That means AI and cyber even be easier going and getting access to your title and monetizing it. For pennies a day, you can stop that. HomeTitleLock.com/Steve. Check it out. Totally free, no obligation. You get 2 weeks to understand it all. AllFamilyPharmacy.com. These are the guys who have done this online pharmacy to break the chokehold that the big drugstore chains had on you. No longer. You have no excuse. AllFamilyPharmacy.com/Bannon10. 10% off besides the overhead savings that they're giving you. And they've got licensed professionals, pharmacists, all of it. And hydroxychloroquine and other medicines like that. We're back here at 5. We'll see you then. Back in the world.